Welcome to the Pistons Fanatic. I'm your host Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a die-hard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a high school varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. Each episode I come on here and I talk about how we're going on this fantastic voyage together, and this voyage certainly seems to be a roller coaster ride full of ups and downs and twists and turns, and this last three games have been no difference. But first we're going to touch on the great Killian Hayes and his tremendous game against the Dallas Mavericks. This was really probably, could be a career-changing game, although in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he has been steadily and consistently playing so much better. His percentage has been steady and improving every time, every game, each week, and his assists are going up and his turnovers are going down, and he's still playing. We've all known that Killian is a plus defender, and our team is in desperate needs of defense. If there's any one area that we struggle, and it's with our defense. We give up 70 points a half consistently, it seems like. So he is one of our best defenders. He is a super passer and makes a big difference by just sharing the ball. His turnover percentage ratio has gone down, and he played a marvelous game against Dallas. We won in overtime, 131 to 125. Killian shot the lights out. He was 10 for 13 and 2 for 4 on threes, and he would have had another three, but he stepped on the line. His toe stepped on the line. He's done that before, so he would have been 3 for 5 on threes. And he shot his pull-up jumper, man. He is just burying it, and it looks so good recently, and it's going to be a great weapon for him. He had 8 assists and only 2 turnovers and 4 rebounds in 33 minutes. And not only that, but his at the end of regulation, he either assisted or scored the last 10 points of regulation. And then in overtime, he hit those 2 big threes back to back that really made a difference in the game. So he scored 14 of his 22 points at the end of the fourth quarter and in overtime. So that was really clutch on Killian's part, and I couldn't be happy for him. So when we look at the season, we still have a very mediocre record, but if we can come out of this season with a quality player in Killian Hayes, it's going to be a great benefit to us going down the road. He's 21 years old, and so here's to hoping that he can continue this. He obviously is not going to play that well, every game, not even close, but still he just has shown signs of, for like 2 or 3 weeks now, of just playing consistently good basketball and greatly improved shooting. His confidence looks really better. You can just tell by his body language on the court. His form looks good. So it was a big win for us to beat Dallas. It's funny how games go, though. It went overtime, so at the end of regulations, it's tied, obviously, and so many different weird quirks happened during the game. Luka, he scored a lot of points, but he's one of the best players in the league, and he's in the running for the MVP if their team ends up having a better record. But he was 2 for 6 on free throws, and ironically, he missed 2 free throws at the very end of regulation, and luckily they got a rebound off one of his misses and kicked it to him, and he got 3 on that instead of 2. But he shot really well. He shot 13 for 25 and from the floor overall, and he shot 7 for 14 on threes, and he's shooting in the 20%. As great as he is, and he's averaging in the 30s, he hasn't shot the 3 well this year, and it's surprising that somebody that's such a great scorer is not a better free throw shooter. He also had 10 assists, but he had the worst plus minus on their team. He was minus 13, which is really unusual for him. And then also the fact that we barely hung on to tie them at the end of regulation. They were only 14 for 29 on free throws, so they were less than 50% on free throws, which is you just very rarely ever see that in the NBA. They're one of the few teams that we really out-rebounded. We dominated them, and they do struggle rebounding. We out-rebounded them 52-30, which was huge, and we also we just really played tough inside interior defense. They don't have the big post players that some other teams have, and that is a big difference in the game too. So they may have shot 54% from overall, 41% on threes, and Pistons we shot 54%, which is incredible for us. 43% on threes, and we didn't shoot free throws well either. We were only 14 for 24, which is still better than what they shot. So Bojan had just an absolute crazy good game, and he scored 30 points. He was 10 for 14 overall, 5 for 6 on threes, 5 for 6 on free throws, and he had 4 rebounds. He had a team best plus 14. Stu had 9 points, didn't shoot well. He was 4 for 12 overall, 1 for 4 on threes, but he did have 12 rebounds, which was, again, we've been getting beat up inside and points in the paint, and that was big. Bagley, 19 points and 7 for 10 from the floor, and his shooting percentage is incredible, which it was really high last year. And he just is a bucket man. He can just get the ball, and 7 for 10 is just incredible. But on top of it, 13 rebounds, and so that's not also always what he does. So that was big. Livers was only scored 6 points, but he was 2 for 2 on threes. And again, we'll see Livers, 90% of his shots seem like they're 3-pointers. And if he can shoot 40%, which it seems he has so far this year, and play good defense, and contribute that way, even though he might not play, may just play 20 minutes, it makes a difference in the game. Sadiq had not his best game. He had 6 points, 2 for 7 shooting, 1 for 3 on threes, but he did have 5 rebounds. He only played 19 minutes. Burks played only 20 minutes, but he had 10 points, 4 for 11, and he had 6 rebounds. Ivy, he's been struggling. His shot has not been going in as consistently. He had 16 points, but he was only 6 for 15, 2 for 7 on threes, and he was 2 for 4 from the free throw line. 3 rebounds, 6 assists. Duran had 11 points, only played 18 minutes, and he was 5 for 7, lots of dunks, high percentage shots, and they, sometimes I think they impact us a little bit more. But I still think there are different people. There's a guy that does a podcast called the Piston Pulse. His name's Bryce Simons. Very knowledgeable guy. Seems like a great guy. But it just intrigues me when before the season started, oh yeah, Duran, he's young. He should play in the G League, a bunch of games. I really think that he should. And he went on and on in the preseason saying that he thought he should play in the G League. And then he plays in the league, and we were kind of short in the post. And so he plays, and then say, oh yeah, I guess maybe I was wrong. He shouldn't play. He seems like he belongs in the NBA. And then he says things, well, yeah, he's young, so maybe he shouldn't play too many minutes because he's so young. Well, I still think that doesn't matter. I think that what he shows on the court is that he belongs out there, and that he's an asset to our team out there, and that he needs to play. And then he had one game where he didn't play as well, and then all of a sudden Bryce Simon says, oh yeah, he's hit the wall. He's a rookie, so maybe he's had one bad game. Well, you know what? All of our players have bad games, and young players are going to be a little bit more inconsistent, but it doesn't mean that this kid is just so fragile. You watch him play, you know that Jalen Duran is not fragile. He is a beast. So we won the points in the paint going away 54-41, which again is just tremendous for us. A little bit disappointing though. We were up 117-109 with a minute 30 left in the fourth quarter, and we 8-point lead with a minute and a half left, and we let them tie it up. So that was disappointing. Burks has made a big difference, even though he struggled somewhat lately. He hasn't been near as good as he was at the beginning, but we've been 13th in offense since Burks has been playing, and before that we were like at the bottom of the NBA, and we had the worst bench before he started playing. Now our bench is 6th. So One thing I like to talk about is the schedule again. We've had all these games. We've played more games, I think, than anybody in the league. We've played more road games than we've played home games. We've had more back-to-backs than anybody in the NBA, and those things are all factors. Coach Casey thought that when we got blown out by the Knicks 140 to 110, and everybody thought that usually when you come back from the West Coast road trip, that the first game back was going to be the game that there was going to be a big mental letdown. But we played Cleveland really tough. But Coach Casey says that he thinks that the Knicks loss was the scheduling one where it happens. And those things are real. You know, I've watched teams play in pros in college, and my daughter played in college, and it's a real thing that teams, especially if they go on a road trip, if a team goes on a long road trip, typically the last game of the road trip, teams kind of play bad. They just are zapped emotionally and mentally. They know they're going to be going home. Even college kids, when my daughter played in college, the coach knew that the game before Christmas break, if the kids were going to be going home for Christmas and getting a little bit of break, there would be a letdown in the game before Christmas. So all those psychological factors really are real in the NBA. And so Coach Casey, I'm not saying that he probably is right that Knicks game was a factor in the letdown of our team. Also want to take a little bit of time to talk again about trades. That's going to be a big topic until the trade deadline. One thing that people claim is that the December 15th is a big day as far as the trade deadline goes. And that's because players who were signed as free agents are not eligible to be traded until December 15th. Well, still players are, for example, Bojan. He's not, we signed him to an extension. We didn't sign him as a free agent. We traded for him. So he is eligible, but still, for whatever reason, teams don't seem to make an effort to trade people. Partway, they're trying to wait to see where they're at as a team, and so a lot of times at that point in the season, teams have a better understanding of which direction their team is heading, what they need to add, and who out there might be a player that they can add. So I've talked about this before. We always think that we can trade our players, and I use examples. Josh Jackson. Oh yeah, we can trade Josh Jackson for a good player and get a first round pick for him or something. But everybody always overvalues our players. But we had, Kojo, for example. Anybody could have signed him. We cut him and then we re-signed him. But he could have re-signed with somebody else if somebody would have wanted to give him more money. So it's just our players. The players that teams have, typically they overvalue, or they think they have more trade value. Because when we look at Bogey and Burks, we got Bogey for Kelly Olynyk and Saban Lee, who they cut right away. And I think he recently signed a contract with the Sixers, and I hope he has some good luck there. But Burks, we really just got him as a salary dump. We didn't get anything really in return for Burks, and he's a real good player. And so we get our hopes up, but what trades take, it takes your team getting something that they want in return, and there might be another team that could really use Bogey, and I think any team could use him, or Burks, especially a playoff team. To have a guy as good as those two guys coming off their bench would be priceless, I would think. But do they have something that they're willing to give up that's valuable enough to us to make it worth it? And I've said in past episodes, I'm not trading those two guys unless I'm getting real value. I'm not, when we traded for Bogey, we gave up Olynyk and Saban Lee, and we really wanted to just get rid of those guys. And the same thing even when we traded Trey Lyles and Josh Jackson to get Marvin Bagley. We were probably looking to unload those guys. So we really traded them for nothing, but we're not willing to trade Bogey and Burks for nothing. So time will tell. I don't know if anything will happen the 15th. It's always interesting to me that teams wait till the February trade deadline to make trades when they could get these guys are difference makers for their teams and add them to their roster earlier. As long as you're going to give up something for them, why not do it earlier so that you can get more wins? So I'm not sure about that. So I'm gonna have an episode later talking about who would you rather be. Would you rather be, and I'm gonna use an example right now what my thing's gonna be like. It's like, would you rather be the New York Knicks or the Detroit Pistons? Well, the Knicks have a better record by far than the Pistons. They're at 500 or close to it, and they just smoked the Pistons 140 to 110. Well, my opinion is, as a longtime NBA fan for over 40, 50 years and a Piston fan through all this time, that I would rather be the Pistons. And like I said, I'm not just saying that because I'm a diehard Piston fan, but I was, until we got Cade and things started to look to turn around and Troy took over and we seemed to have a plan of where we were going. I wouldn't have wanted to be the Pistons. They were stuck in Never Never Land. They were just out of the lottery or just in the lottery or just and we were never getting good picks, and we had an overpriced roster full of bad contracts and veterans that were getting worse and not better. And now we have at least optimism, and we have these young players who are, we have lots of cap space. We can sign free agents. We can make moves. We can make deals with teams way easier because we have this cap space. The Knicks, on the other hand, they have some good pieces. They have a pretty decent team, but what are they going to do? They're stuck right there in no man's land, where I think they're going to be, just inside the play-in or just inside the playoff picture, and they're probably going to lose in the first round. They're not going to get any high picks for a bunch of years, and they got a bunch of players who are decent but not great, and some of them are even just getting a little bit older. And so I just like the excitement of the Pistons. I know fans hate losing, and we've lost a lot this year, and we're going to lose more this year. I think next year we are still going to be definitely under 500, but I just love the chance and that we got Ivy that has so much potential, and Duran that has so much potential, and Cade, and now Killian, and we have should be getting a high draft pick. And so I just am more optimistic about the Pistons. But we got hammered by the Knicks, and they shot 56%, which again, our defense was not good. We shot 50%. And how do you shoot? We shot 50%, which most of the early season we only shot like 40%. We got shot 33% on threes, which isn't great, but we've done worse. And how do you shoot over 50% and still get beat by 30? And so that's kind of interesting, but the Knicks just scored a lot of points on us. I think they were really fortunate. They shot way better than they usually do, and they had some guys come out and make threes that were way above their percentages. So maybe we just gave them too many open looks. But once again, Bogey had 13 points. He was 4 for 6. He only played 19 minutes, but because we were getting beat so bad, he didn't get to play very much. He's 1 for 2 on threes and 4 for 6 from the line. So in 19 minutes, scoring 13 points. Shooting wise, he was pretty good. He did make 3 turnovers, which for 19 minutes, that's not good when you're not the point guard, especially. Stu had 19 points, 6 for 13 overall, 5 for 9 on threes. A lot of those threes came at the end of the game. They were still guarding him, and it's still a good sign. He still has shot over the last month. He is shooting right around 40%. So still positive for him. We know he's going to rebound for us. We know he's going to play his butt off on defense. And that's a real positive sign for us going forward. Marvin Bagley only played 23 minutes, but he's 5 for 10, and he was 3 for 6 on threes. So that's really amazing for him. He had 7 rebounds, but he had 4 turnovers, and that's way too many for a post player who has limited touches. Livers, once again, 2 for 5 on threes. That's right what we want him to be. We want him to shoot around 40% on threes. He doesn't have to shoot anything else but play good defense and get some rebounds. Killian had a solid game, 11 points, 5 for 11, only 1 for 4 on threes, but he had 6 assists, 3 steals, and 0 turnovers. And again, that's huge for a person that handles the ball as much as he did. So Duran played 27 minutes, which is about where I want him to play, and he was 6 for 7 from the floor and had 5 rebounds. So that's 12 points. That's awesome, man. That's just great production for that many limited and that percentage shooting 6 for 7. And I know his shots are dunks, so you can say that. Well, yeah, he's just getting dunks. Anybody can make those. Well, not anybody can get a dunk, and he has got the ability to get up quick and strong and fast. He can catch it in traffic and power his way right up quickly and hammer it through. So. Knox didn't play much. He had not a very good game. Sadiq had 11 points in 18 minutes. He was 4 for 11, and again he 0 for 5 on threes, which is still kind of unexplainable. But there's hope. Just like we talked about Killian. Killian's confidence was shaken, and again I think I'm not positive that Sadiq is a great player. He's not a great athlete. I'm not sure that he ever can be a great defender. I do think that there's a chance that he can be, a 38% three-point shooter, and he has certainly added to his game the ability to take the ball to the basket and draw fouls, and he's a great free throw shooter. So I think there's a good role for him on a team, but I don't know why, and I just hope that he gets, his head straight with his three-point shooting and makes more threes. Burks didn't have a good game, but Hami was 4 for 5. Points in the paint, though, here we go again. 68 to 50. We just got smoked by second points in the paint. And so that's where, we just have to find a way to battle inside better. We got to get better interior defense. Sometimes that happens because our guards let people penetrate too easily. And so that's, a big problem. So anyway, we played the Grizzlies tonight, and we got beat 122 to 112. Ja was spectacular. He's certainly worth the price of admission. Although he is crazy, we held him to 7 points in the first half, and then you're feeling good about yourself, and then he comes out in the third quarter and scores 21, and he ended up with, like I said, 33 for the game. But he just can fly through the air and hang in the air and go from one side of the back to the other and twist it up there. And we see Jaden Ivey, and it was cool. Jaden Ivey, he has been a big mentor to Jaden Ivey. And after the game, they exchanged jerseys. You could see him talking before the game. And Ivey cannot hammer and get up as high as Ja, not even close. He struggled with his three-point shot, and his shot has gotten better. And we need Jalen's to get better. So we'll see what happens. Jaden's, excuse me. And so we'll hope that he gets better. I certainly, like I said before in episodes, that he has certain flaws that are, obvious to me that he needs to adjust. But Bojan had 18 points. He only played 24 minutes, so that's a lot of points for 24 minutes. He was 4 for 8, 2 for 4 on threes, 8 for 8 from the line. And, that's a pretty good game. He had 3 turnovers, but Coach Casey, I don't think, played him much because our starters played such horrible defense that I think that he just decided that he wasn't going to play the starters very much. So he was minus 29 in his 24 minutes. And so there's things, there are factors that guys have, and I think Bojan really plays hard on defense, and he's a smart player. So I'm not sure. I think a friend of mine said that he was considered to be, he guarded LeBron in the playoffs, and I think that they said that he did a pretty good job. But I'm not sure what happens, and when we end up getting blown out at times, KC doesn't play Bojan as much, which is understandable. He's a little bit older, and so he wants to let the younger guys play. Stu played 27 minutes, 8 points, 3 for 7, but 2 for 5 on 3, so he's continuing to shoot his 40%, only 4 rebounds. Bagley, 8 points, 4 for 9, 5 rebounds. Ivy had not a great game, 10 points, 2 for 9, bad percentage, 1 for 5 on threes. and some people think he should shoot less. And last time I said he should shoot less. The next game he made 4 out of 4, but on threes. So he is going to just have ups and downs. He had 6 rebounds and 3 assists. Killian had 13 points, 5 for 13, 3 for 5 on threes. Um, so he had another good game with 2 rebounds and 6 assists. He's averaging like close to 8 assists in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So there's just lots of positive signs. Big disappointing, Duran had played only 15 minutes, and so I'm not sure what happened. He did get 2 fouls early, but he ended up with only 3 fouls. But he had 3 rebounds and 3 assists. He had 3 assists. He played 15 minutes, and he's a post player that hardly ever touches the ball, and so that's really awesome. And we know that he has potential to be a really good passer, and he's already shown signs of that. I didn't get to talk about it on this podcast, but he caught the ball up at the top of the key one game, and Livers made a backdoor cut, and he made a sensational pass to Livers with a small window, and Livers got an easy bucket. And so we just think that his potential as a passer is phenomenal. He also had 2 blocks in only 15 minutes, so that's another place where we think we got pounded. Points in the paint, 56-40, but we're playing Jalen Duran only 15 minutes, so that doesn't make sense to me. But Sadiq was phenomenal, and he's had his best game in a month by far. He scored 24 points, 7 for 16, but the kicker is 1 for 6 on threes, and his percentage is now in the 20s for the season. And I know that part of it is in his head. He still, obviously, he shot 6 of them, and so he's still shooting them, but he just can't make any. And so I just don't know. I just hope somehow that turns around, just like it did with Killian. He was also 9 for 12 from the line, which is phenomenal. 6 rebounds, and the biggest one, he had 7 assists. He's had over 7 games this year where he's had 0 assists because he doesn't even look to pass. So that's a big breakout game for him to get 7 assists. The fact that he's just even looking, but he's either had 0 or 1 assist in by far a majority of his games this year. And so if he looks to pass and he hits a better percentage, and we just can hope that his 3-point, it doesn't make any sense that he would get worse at 3-point shooting. Most players, as longer in their league, sometimes they stay the same or they get better, and he's steadily gotten worse. So anyway, I hope you enjoy listening to this episode, and thank you very much. I do appreciate each and every person that takes the time to listen to this podcast. I'm going to try to change things up and look at some different things. Just a little teaser. I have going to have a podcast about who is going to be the next Piston coach. Not saying that Casey's going to get fired. I don't think he will be fired this year, but possibly at the end of the year they're not going to even fire him. But anyway, I have some perspective. Some guys I think that could be good coaches for the Pistons going down the road, and then I also want to do the episode where I say, look at our team and compare them to other teams in the league, and try to decide who would you rather be a fan of. So anyway, I want to thank my wife Kelly for all the help she does for editing this each week for me, and for my nephew Nathan for all of his help. And I hope you do something nice for somebody, make their day better. And thank you for listening again. If you listen on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review if that's what you would like to do. And if you listen on YouTube, subscribe. It's free. And then click on like, and I would appreciate that very much. Well, have a great day. Go Pistons.